Merry Christmas, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to do a mat class today, a level 1, 2, a little bit of standing and a little bit of great movement on the mat. So I have the blue mini stability ball. Just if you have it, you can use it under your pelvis when we're on our back and maybe under your side, under the ribs when we come onto our side, but you don't need it. You can certainly do the whole workout without it. It's everybody's Merry Christmas mat. So you don't need the ball right away. We are going to warm up our legs a little bit first in feet parallel and even touching if you can. We're going to do a little bit of V work in our legs. We haven't done this for a while, or at least this level hasn't. Let's take the hands to the hips and get tall through our spine. Really feel your center over your heels. That's going to let you do this movement a little bit easier. Open up across the chest, be tall, even in your neck, or anywhere you can get height from. Little softness in your knees if you tend to hyperextend though. And then your goal is to keep the pelvis still as you move the feet out into a little V and back in together. Out and back in together. And that's why you have the hands on the hips, just to, really feel that pelvis staying still. You're avoiding the little penguin wobble. So you don't have the little that was for you, Margaret. Out, pull it in with strength. Out, pull it in with strength. Out, pull it in with strength. Hold this one out. A little bend of the knees. Contract and steady through your core as you raise the heels, straighten, and lower back down. So we have bend knees, raise heels, straighten knees, lower the heels. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, 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 boom. Arms can go out to the sides, just for a little bit of shoulder isometric work. Or you can leave them on the hips if you want to feel that, feedback for the pelvis. We're going to do a couple more this way, and I want you to feel like you have even weight through the knuckles of the feet and that you leave the toes spread and relaxed. Good. Let's reverse it. Raise up onto the balls of the feet. Bend the knees. Put the heels down and zip it all up. So you have boom, boom, heels down, zip it up. Heel raise, knee bend, heels down, zip it all up. Heel raise, knee bend, heels down, zip it all up. Is the head over the rest of the spine, or are you looking at your feet? Are the low ribs held in if you tend to pop them forward? And are you feeling long and supported through the waist with the abdominals? Good. Zip this one up. Raise the heels. Bring them together if they're not touching. They don't have to be super high. You're just hovering. And we're going to bend the knees and straighten back up. Bend the knees and straighten back up. You can bend the knees, straighten back up. For 4, for 3. You can go as low as you want, what feels good in your body. But then, on this one, you're going to hold it down. You're going to bring the arms to the sides, and we're going to pulse it. For 4 more. 4, 3, toes still relaxed, and 1. Awesome. Lower it down. The legs are waking up, eh? Nice. Good. Let's do a little bit of standing balance before we move down to the mat, and some mobility through our spine. So, balancing first, we're going to take a step back with our right leg into this nice lunge position, as big or as little as you can control. So the left knee or the knee is over the foot in the front. You've got your neutral spine, you're strong in your abdominals, right? And we're going to have a shift from here, and you can have hands on your hips or out to the sides. That's not important right now. But you're going to come from this position to a balance. And that foot can land at the knee height or the calf, or it can balance on the mat if you need to, right? Reach it back and come up. Reach it back and come up. So the reaching back is a nice control right? And that's hard. That's when our knee wobbles or we're off-centered. So really try to feel like you're in this narrow little hallway that's just been painted. You're wearing your best holiday clothes. You don't want to get them painted. So you can't wobble side to side. You can't hit the paint, right? Good. Now this is level 1, 2. If you're more level 2, when you come up to your balance, you could add a heel raise. Land softly and reach back. Boom, little heel raise, land softly, reach back. Good. Make this one your last one. Hold your balance with the heel down. If you did the heel raise, good. And we're gonna open that knee out to the side and bring it back into the center. Out to the side, back into the center. For 3, for 2, for 1. Beautiful. You tired of standing on that leg? Just a little bit. Reach back with that leg. Straighten it behind you a little bit. Tip forward a little bit with the chest. And then continue on as far as you can control. Pretend you're going to pick up something from the floor, you know, like a golfer, if you've watched golf. You know, they hold on to their club, but then they let the leg float up as they reach down and get their ball. That's what you're imagining you're doing. Coming back up. Let's do one more time. Oh yeah. Pushing the level 1, 2's balance today. Good, and relax and walk it out. Weight into your right leg, stepping back with that left leg. And then putting the hands wherever feels good to you, but moving from this position where you're nice and solid to a balance. Reach it back, balance. Reach it back, and balance. Reach it back, balance. If you're feeling good and steady, then you make the movement bigger. If you're feeling like you can't control the knee, then make the movement smaller, make it slower. Try to use your out breath where you need it. Anything to help bring some stability into your movement. 2. Hold this one. Let the knee go out to the side and bring it back in. Oh, that wasn't good balance, was it? Out to the side and bring it back in. Hips stay nice and level. Boom, boom. So it's just that knee. That hip opens out to the side, knee moves out to the side, back in for 2, for 1. Beautiful. Reach back with that leg, pitch forward a little bit with the chest, and then it's like you're picking up a golf ball. You're holding an imaginary club, and you're going to reach down with the other hand and pick up that ball, or have the hands on the hips, whatever you need to do this movement nicely, and we're practicing it twice. It's really nice work for the hip you're standing on. It really asks a lot of control, and I know you can do it. Okay? Good. Let's do that one more time. I know we did it more on the other side. We're gonna do one more on each leg. I really want you to keep the hips level. We'll do one again on this leg. Just because I'd really like you to pause. I should have paused, and I want you to see, you know, when you're in this final position, is the head and neck in line with the rest of the spine? Is the tummy drawn in a little bit, supporting the spine and lengthening? And is the back leg really up, or have you left it sort of bent and lazy looking? Straighten it out. Lift it a little bit higher if you can. Right? Awesome. Release that. And let's just try that same hold on the other side. So if your weight into the left leg, you lift the back leg. Think of keeping the hips level, drawing in with the tummy to support what you're doing. Have the head in line with the rest of the spine when you're there. And then just hold. Is the knee straight? Could you lift the back leg a little higher? Is the pelvis level? Awesome. And bring it up. Good. Perfect. Okay, moving down to the mat. Walk it back, because we're going to walk it out. Be at the back of your mat. Take a nice breath in. Float the arms overhead. Bring them out to your sides from there in a little cactus position. And draw in with the tummy. But then open across the chest. Press the elbows back. Lift the breastbone. Lift the face just a little bit to open the chest here, and then come up over the top. Relax the arms at your sides, nod the chin, and enjoy a lovely roll down. So, one bone of the back at a time. Nice breath in here. Restack. One bone of the back at a time. Open across the chest. Arms overhead. Elbows wide. Hands come to this cactus position. Open across the chest. And over the top, relax the arms, nod the chin, roll it out. And then walk your hands out to be on hands and knees. So bending the knees if you need to reach the mat. Keep the center of you over the center of the mat. And we're going to come to be on hands and knees with a little warm up of the spine in all directions. It's going to be good. Take a nice breath in and be broad in your shoulders, long in your neck. On your out breath, tuck the chin first. Let's do all we can with the head and the neck. Then let the upper back round up, the mid back, and the low back. This is flexion. This is your cat stretch. To release, I want you to release from the tailbone all the way in a little wave. Finally letting the head come up last. And we're going to go beyond neutral. We're going to sag the spine as if something heavy is on your back. You're lifting the tailbone. You're lifting the face. This is extension. And then coming back to neutral. Beautiful. We're going to do a little wag of the tail. So you're going to try to put your nose on your right hip. Obviously, you're not going to touch your nose to your right hip, but that's your idea. All right, you wag to the right, you look to the right. Back to the center, and then wag your tail to the left, look to the left. That's side bend. Center it. Good. A little rotation, press into the left hand, take the right hand to the forehead, take a breath in and raise that elbow towards the ceiling. Right? This is your rotation. On your out breath, you're going to take that hand and you're going to feed it under the one or behind the one that's on the mat and look that way, getting rotation in the opposite direction. Back to hands and knees. That was one. We got to the other side. So right hand on the mat, left hand to the forehead. Breath in to lift the elbow. Breath out to feed it underneath. Try to keep the head in line with the rest of the spine and not drop down. Good. Back to hands and knees. Through that whole series, one more time. Cat stretch, nice flexion, round the spine up towards the ceiling. Then release. Back down to neutral and a little bit beyond into what we call extension, where you lift the tailbone and you lift the face and you sag gently, just what feels good in the center. Back to neutral. Wag your tail right. Wag your tail left. That one just makes you smile, right? Good. Press into the left hand. Bring the right hand, back of the hand to the forehead. Breath in to rotate. Exhale. Feed that hand behind. Reach, 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 reach. Doesn't that feel good? And then right hand on the mat. Left hand to the back of the forehead. Follow the elbow with your eyes as you rotate that way with your breath in and exhale to thread the needle. Perfect. Back to hands and knees. Tuck the toes. Take a nice breath in, draw in with the belly, hover the knees. Good. Now you have your options here because this is level 1, 2. You can hover the knees and put them back down. You can hover the knees and put them back down. All the while trying to stay strong in the shoulders and keep the spine in neutral. If you're feeling a little ambitious, you got some holiday and maybe New Year's goals, take a nice breath in, hover the knees, and then we're going to lift the sit bones towards the sky and move into our pyramid stretch, giving ourselves a nice opening in the shoulders. Feel the pelvis press back away from the hands. Put a little more weight in the heels, and then raise the heels and pivot strongly so that the shoulders are over the arms and you bend the knees to go back to your hover. Coming back into the pyramid. Sink the heels. Raise the heels and pivot strongly back to your hover. Okay, that's good. Lift the sit bones, sink the heels. All the while, the spine is in neutral. We just mobilize the spine. Now we're strengthening the muscles that support and stabilize it, as well as some good upper body. Good. Make this one your last one, into your pyramid, or just lifting and lowering the knees in the hover. Raise the heels, pivot back to the hover, hold it here. Draw in with the tummy, hold the low ribs back, the head and neck are nice and long, and I don't want you to move at all in your chest. I want you to unlock the elbows and straighten them again. So it's a tiny little movement in the elbows, and we're gonna do 4 more, and it's hard. 4, good, 3, 2, put the knees down if you need to, 1, perfect. And then release the knees, uncurl the toes, and rock the hips back towards the heels. Lovely, very well deserved shell stretch. That's nice, eh? That's a lot of like weight bearing through the wrists, which is sometimes hard for us, especially if we've injured the wrist before, or we're not used to doing it. So you can always modify where you need to, but it's really nice strength for the upper body, and weight bearing is always nice for bone mass. So if there's any concerns about low bone density, doing some upper body weight bearing is always nice. Roll it up to nice kneeling. And let's come to be on our back on the mat now. And this is where, if you have your blue ball, you can put it under the pelvis. Good. And make sure you have your nice center there. Bring the feet a little close together if you can, the knees a little close together, so that you have a narrow base of support. Let's take the arms initially, just put them on the mat and wiggle the fingertips down towards the heels. So the shoulders are away from the ears, the head and neck are nice and relaxed. And then bend the elbows if you want for a little bit of a challenge, so you don't have as much arms on the mat. Take a nice breath in. On your out breath, let's bring the right leg up to tabletop. Lower it down. Switching sides. Lower it down. And you know what you're looking for here. You're looking for the ball to be still. If you don't have the ball, you're feeling the pelvis stay still right on the mat. It's still really good feedback. It's just the ball will really not lie to you. That's why we use it as a prop a lot in the live classes, is because if you're not able to stay level in the pelvis, you'll feel the ball and the movements, and it's a good feedback to be able to find and identify that center and that stillness, that fulcrum. If you don't have the ball though, you can still get just as much work. You just have to really tune in to feeling where your pelvis is on the mat, or putting the hands on the hips so that you can feel that pelvis is staying still. Let's leave the right leg up in tabletop and bring the left leg up to meet it. The abdominals are flat. And I want you to sit here just for a second and breathe. And you should already be working here, right? If the knees are too close, then you'll say, oh yeah, I could just hang out here all day. I think I really could, right? You want to bring the knees over the hips so those thighs are vertical and the shins are pretty horizontal. And that will make you work in the abdominals already. If you find you can't control that, then yes, you could have the knees in a little bit. But you want to be at the point where you're working and you're challenging yourself to keep that deeper abdominal connection while we do some movement, right? So you're in tabletop, or as close to tabletop as you can control. Let's tap the right toe. Pick it back up and tap the left. And if you're feeling good already, you can pass in motion so that as the right leg starts to lift, the left is going down. And I want you to be really tuned into yourself for this exercise. I mean, for all exercises, but really listen to this one today. How still is that ball, or how still is that pelvis as you switch from right to left? Right? Are you working hard in the abdominals? You should be, right? This is not idle work. Good. And then if you're feeling still, then we can take the arms off the mat and we can add, let's do same arm, same leg, with the arm going overhead as the toes tap. Try to keep the elbows fairly straight, the shoulders broad. You can have a little softness in the elbows, if that helps. Good. Let's do 3, 2, 1. Pause here. Take a nice breath in. Leave the arms up if you can. And on your out breath, I just want you to straighten both legs. Right? Try not to let that back change its shape, right? So if we're tight in the hamstrings, often as we try to straighten the legs, we'll also flatten the back, or we'll tip the tailbone up towards the ceiling, and then we're like, wow, this is easy. Right? If you're tight in the hamstrings, you might not actually get the legs straight while you work to keep the spine nice and neutral, while you keep that abdominal support. Good. If you need the hands down, maybe elbows on the mat, that's all right. And you're just practicing that straightening and that lower. The straightening and the lower. Good. Perfect. From here, take the legs. If you need to leave the knees a little soft, that's okay, but just be at your limit. You're trying to lengthen the hamstrings. And we're going to open the legs out to the sides in a nice V, working those inner thighs, and bring them back in together. Out to the side and back in together. We're going to do 4 more. 4, 3, a little bit of inner thigh work, right? 2, 1. Hold this one here, and a little pulse. Lift an inch and lower, and feel that when you lift an inch, you have a connection in the pelvis, to the pelvic floor, to the deep abs. Feel the inner thighs. Feel that as a powerful movement. For 3, for 2, for 1. Zip it all up. Zoop. And bend the knees and hug them in towards your chest. It's always nice to do a little stretch after that. So stretch out, right leg nice and long, left knee in towards the chest. And switch. Good. See what we just did there? That switch. We're going to try this. So, level 1, I want you to have the knees in tabletop, or legs in tabletop, and you're going to practice stretching out one leg. You can bring you can have the hands on one knee. You're straightening one leg, bringing it back in, and switching. With no movement on the ball, or if you don't have the ball, no movement of the pelvis on the mat. All right? Level 2, you can start with that as a warm-up. But then, more in the full Pilates exercise mode, take a nice breath, keep the pelvis in neutral, raise the head, the neck. If you're on the ball, you won't get much of the upper back off. If you're without the ball, you might be able to come up a little higher and still keep the neutral pelvis. So either way, and the pelvis, the ball gives you the instability, the mat gives you more room to come up. Ready? And then we're going to straighten one leg, pelvis stays nice and still, and switch. The legs pass nice and close to each other. And if the neck really hates this, you can put one hand behind the head and give it a little bit of support. And then take turns, switch and do the other arm. It's just what feels good in your body. But if you can hold yourself up, let's try to do 2 more on each side. Oh, this was a mean one to add in. Good. And I don't know if I did even there anyway. Bring the legs to tabletop, hug them in. And then lower it down. Good. If you're on the ball, put the feet on the mat, get the ball out, put it to the side. Take a nice breath in, knees are together. Put the arms out to the sides. And on your out breath, let those knees go to the right. Breathe into wherever it's tight. Try to see if that will release. And then peel yourself back through the center to the other side. So you're keeping the opposite shoulder blade on the mat, and you're really keeping the knees pressed together so that, as I go to the right, my left foot comes off the mat. Otherwise, my knees would stagger a little bit, which is still, you could do the stretch that way. That's a valuable stretch as well. This is just more for the spine as opposed to a stretch through the hips and pelvis, right? You're hoping to feel it up, even in your diaphragm area and rib cage. Good. Center yourself here. And let's come on to our sides for a little bit of side work. And if you have the mini ball, then you can use it for a little bit of feedback underneath the rib cage. And that's more, certainly not your level 1, but, your level 1, 2, or your 2. Then you can find a place where the rib cage, is happy on the ball. You can rest the head on the arm that's on the mat, the elbow, and the other arm. If you're going to use the ball, you don't usually want the other arm on the mat because you're really challenging, you're trying to make yourself have an unstable surface. So have that hand on the top hip or behind the head, right? With the hip stacked. Right? If you don't have the ball, then lay down on that bottom arm, just nice and long, and do the same leg work, right? Good. So you're looking. Quick glance down at your feet because you shouldn't see your toes. They should be in line with the rest of the spine. Then look ahead. Good. Pelvis is stacked. Take a nice breath in. Raise the top leg and lower it down. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Hold it up. Little circles. Yeah. Didn't give you much time, if you're on the ball, to find your sweet spot. Reverse the circle. Circle, 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 circle. Perfect. And pause. Bend the bottom knee just a little bit to give you a little more stability. Flex the foot and sweep that leg ahead. Point and sweep back. Try to keep that rib cage nice and still. Right? I'd say that this is when we really let the rib cage move, right? As the leg goes forward, the rib cage rolls back and vice versa. And you're really working in your abdominals and in your back muscles to hold that rib cage nice and still. Hold this one forward, the legs forward. You're going to drop and catch it for 6, for 5, for 4. Merry Christmas. Good. Hold this one up. Sweep it back. Good. Reach that top arm forward on a little bit of an angle and lift that back leg for 6, for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Awesome. Come up from there into a nice side kneeling. And let's stretch out the top hip actually in a little bit of a different way for us. Bottom knee stays bent and that top leg comes across if you can. Putting the foot flat on the ground. The other one, see if you can get a nice even weight on the sit bones. That might not be possible if you're a little tight in the hips. And then you can just be here. Or if you want a little more intensity in the stretch, if you don't feel too much, then you can hug that top knee in towards your chest a little bit, and then you should feel it in the hip that you just worked. That feels good after working it. But we're not off the hook. We got to do the other side. So swing around, release and swing around. Using the ball if you have it. No worries if you don't. You still get a great workout. Finding though, if you do have the ball, finding a good spot where it's under your rib cage and yet you can still be comfortable putting the head in the hand. The feet are nice and long in line with the rest of the body. Hips are stacked. Good. Take a nice breath in and lift and lower when you're ready. Good. And we're going to hold this one up. Start your circles, and it's just from the hip, right? You're trying to stay still in the waist. You're trying to stay still in the rib cage. You're trying to imagine that ball, the hip ball in the socket, just moving nice and smooth, giving some good nourishment to the joint. Let's do the other direction. Got a little wobble area there. Here we go. Good. Hold this, bend the bottom knee, flex the foot, sweep it ahead, point and sweep back. 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 Hold this one ahead, drop and catch for 6. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sweep it back. Good. Legs in line or a little bit behind. Take that top arm, reach it ahead. Lift that back leg for 6, for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Beautiful. Bend the knee. Bring it in. Come up to that side sitting. You can stretch that hip however you like. This is just a nice one. That top leg comes in front. Trying to get yourself, nice and even on the sit bones if that's possible. See if you can get that foot grounded to the mat, and then nice breath. Sort of sink into it. And then a little hug of the knee in towards the chest. Oh, yay. And just feel where you just worked. Good. Good. And we're going to do one more exercise on our bellies from here. We're going to try to do a quick, quick switch with the legs. So usually we raise a leg, keeping it straight. We lower back down, we raise the other one, but we don't walk that methodically. we hustle, right? So we're gonna just try to speed it up today, and you have 2 choices. If you feel really comfortable with this exercise, and maybe you're even used to doing some higher level videos and you're just gearing down a little bit today, or scaling back, then you can, as we do that switch with the legs, you can be up with the head and neck a little bit. Like just in a low hover, but so you're working the back body pretty intensely, and you're having to support with the abdominals. So if you do that, if you choose to be up with the head and neck and the breastbone a little bit, then you really have to draw in with the abdominals. You really have to keep the pubic bone, the tailbone sort of tucked down towards the mat. And then as you switch the legs, nothing moves. There's no discomfort in the low back, right? If you had little pressure sensors under the hip pointers, there wouldn't be any shift, right? And you're long and tall in the spine, and you remain strong in the abdominals, right? If this is not an easy exercise for you, it gives you a little bit of discomfort in the back sometimes, then do this with the head resting on the hands. You can try to switch in motion and speed it up, but if it's too much, just do our single leg raises at your pace, right? So take a nice breath in. If you want to do the little more difficult version, then float up just a little bit, just a few inches with the head, with the neck, with the breastbone. Anchor the pubic bone to the mat, stay still in the hip pointers, and raise the right leg, and then the left. Right, left, right, left, right, left. So much to do, right? We're always moving at a pretty speedy pace. And we're mimicking it here, but in a nice mindful way, trying to change our movement patterns so that we're more comfortable and strong and efficient. Good. Let's do 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. Beautiful. Legs relax. Lift a little bit with the head, the neck, the breastbone. Especially if you were down, just give yourself that little bit of extension. coming up to whatever's comfortable. Take a nice breath in, and then peel it down, one bone of the back at a time. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders. One perfect press up into a modified push-up position, or modified plank. Oh, I gave away what we're doing. We're ending with 8 push-ups. So if you want to do full push-ups, you can from the toes. If you need to go and bring the knees in a little closer, you can, or be in this position. When you're ready, bending the elbows, but staying broad in the shoulders for 8, for 7, for 6, for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, and for 1. Perfect. Rock the hips back towards the heels, just for a nice, lovely stretch. Breathe into the waist, breathe into the low back. And then lift the hips off the heels, tuck the toes underneath, walk the hands back towards the feet. Roll and ground the feet to the mat and have a beautiful roll up, the reverse of how we got down, one bone to the back at a time, lifting back up to tall with strength, and hopefully feeling a little bit taller as we come up. And then we'll end with our lovely fun stretch that we do in our live classes. We have wide legs, wide arms, and then when you breathe in, bend the hips, scoop the air with the arms, and on your out breath, you sit back with the hips real wide in the chest, and fold forward at the waist, roll it up one bone to the back at a time, and we do it twice. Exhale, fold forward, and roll it up. Do, 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 do. And there we go. Awesome. Thank you for joining. Have a Merry Christmas or whatever you celebrate. And all the best in the new year. I will see you then. Thanks.